Something odd has gone on, but we actually feel sympathy for Kim Tate in Emmerdale. Kim has always been our favourite villain in the show, and now we're strangely protective of her in this more fragile phase. If Joe Tate believes he can steal her power, he's mistaken. Even though Joe isn't the one responsible for hurting her, Graham Foster is the real cause, and he's confusing us just as much as he is Kim. At one moment, he seems kind and supportive, assisting Cain Dingle with his farm troubles, and the next, he's interfering in Rhona and Graham's relationship, while also manipulating Kim into sleeping with him. When he returned to the village, Kim was shaken since she had believed he'd been gone for 6 years. Since coming back, he has been scheming to damage her reputation in Joe's view, pushing him to distance himself from her. Kim has been struggling to hide her emotions for her former partner, acting cold while confessing to Lydia Dingle that she still has lingering feelings. After Graham gave Rhona a final choice that she appeared to reject, he walked away with a bruised ego and ended up drawing Kim into bed instead. The following morning, he dismissed her, leaving her emotionally shaken. Feeling embarrassed, she told Lydia that she would never allow him close again, yet he still remains under her roof. Hurt and angry, Kim begins planning new ways to defend herself and forms an unexpected partnership by hiring Ross Barton as her director of operations, essentially making him her personal protector. Gradually, she intends to gather strength against Graham. Graham does not take this well, exactly as Kim anticipated. Aware of Ross and Dawn's past, he immediately confronts Ross and tries to intimidate him into backing off. Ross refuses to be threatened and instead mocks Graham's efforts, proudly reminding him that he is now Kim's added protection. It raises the question, has Graham finally encountered someone who can stand up to him? Emmerdale has unveiled an early preview of a dramatic confrontation between Cain and Charity Dingle in a special episode. The well-known pair take the spotlight in next Wednesday's trip to the village, where Charity tries to support Cain as he begins to lose control. Cain is going through one of the hardest periods of his life after being diagnosed with prostate cancer. On top of that, his wife Moira isn't there to support him because she has been imprisoned for crimes she didn't commit. The family has also been forced to give up Butler's farm after Moira reluctantly sold it to the Tates. In scenes set to air next week, Cain directs his anger at his brother Sam, whose mistake puts plans for a new Dingle farm at risk. After their heated argument, Cain storms off, and a worried Charity follows him home, voicing concern about his heavy drinking. The preview clip shows how the situation quickly escalates. Cain reacts angrily and becomes defensive when Charity steps in, even questioning why he should listen to someone he considers unreliable. Charity fires back, pointing out that he lashes out whenever he's confronted about his behaviour. She also reminds him that he isn't the only person dealing with serious challenges. Hinting at her own struggles, Charity suggests that she too is facing major issues. When Cain presses her to reveal what's wrong, the question remains whether she will admit that the baby she is carrying may not belong to Sarah and Jacob. Speaking about the episode in a recent interview, Jeff Hordley shared that the script was beautifully written and enjoyable to perform. He also mentioned feeling fortunate to work alongside a talented group of strong female co-stars throughout his time on the show, which has made his experience even more rewarding. Joe Tate continues to make life difficult for Robert Sugden in Emmerdale next week, showing up at Butler's farm with troubling news. After Moira Dingle sold her stake in the farm to Kim Tate, Joe couldn't resist causing trouble by informing the Dingles that Robert had taken over as the new tenant farmer. Cain Dingle expected Aaron Dingle to turn against Robert and remain loyal to his family, but Aaron stood firm and refused to walk away. Aaron understood how much continuing the farming legacy meant to Robert and chose to support him. This decision has created serious friction within the Dingle family, who now feel that both Aaron and Robert have let them down. As Robert begins settling into his role running Butler's farm, the last thing he wants is more conflict. However, that's exactly what happens when Joe arrives and announces that he plans to sell the herd of cows. It's a very typical move from Joe. In the aftermath, Cain finds out about Joe's plan and reacts with anger, especially when Mackenzie Boyd points out that they wouldn't be able to afford keeping the cattle at the new Dingle farm anyway. Things get even worse for Cain when Sam Dingle admits he missed an important meeting about farm equipment, leading Cain to assume that everything is falling apart. Despite this, a glimmer of hope appears when a mysterious hooded figure steps in, determined to help the family. Meanwhile, Robert and Aaron are left stunned when Matty rushes in, panicking as he reveals that the herd has vanished overnight. Joe immediately blames Robert, who strongly denies having anything to do with it. Certain he knows where to turn, Joe teams up with Graham Foster and heads off to confront the Dingles. The Dingles respond confidently, insisting they had no involvement in the disappearance, unaware that one of their own is actually responsible. The truth is revealed on a quiet country road, where the missing cattle are being driven along by none other than Belle Dingle, who has taken matters into her own hands. Although she successfully manages to save the herd, her lack of experience leads to a major oversight. Cain calls to warn her that the bull she took is fitted with a tracking device. Rhona, who insists she isn't interested in Graham Foster, seems to be spending a lot of time with him in Emmerdale. She has gone out of her way to reassure Marlon Dingle that he is the only one she cares about, but it's beginning to seem like she might be trying to convince herself as much as anyone else. Not long ago, Graham asked Rhona to meet him so they could talk about their relationship. He made it clear that if she didn't show up, he would take it as a sign to stay away from her for good. Rhona fully intended to meet him, but her plans changed when Ivy hurt herself at nursery. By the time Rhona finally arrived at the meeting spot, Graham had already left. Instead, he had gone off and ended up sleeping with Kim Tate. Although Rhona later found out and told him off, the spark between them still hasn't faded. In tonight's episode, Rhona and her loved ones were in a panic after Dylan Penders went missing. The teenager had fled the village after sending a letter to the police claiming responsibility for Ray Walter's death. Dylan believed that Beowulf and Paddy Kirk were suffering because of him, and thought confessing would help clear their names. Rhona, along with Marlon, April Windsor, and Aaron Dingle, made it their mission to track Dylan down and stop the letter from reaching the authorities. Realizing they needed urgent help, Rhona decided to turn to someone she knew could get results. Emmerdale airs on weekday evenings at 8 p.m. on ITV1 and is also available to stream on ITVX.